This video is going to cover the topic of complementary and supplementary angles. Be sure the date and topic are at the top of the page. Our essential question for this video is how can we use our knowledge of complementary and supplementary angles to calculate missing values? And before we answer the essential question, we need to be sure that we know the terms complementary and supplementary. So complementary angles are, of course, two angles that add up to 90 degrees, and that means they make a nice right angle. Supplementary angles are two angles that add up to 180 degrees, so together they make a straight line. And let's be sure that we can recognize examples of complementary and supplementary angles. And it looks to me, I'm going to change color here, it looks to me that angle A to X to Y, right, together with angle YXC make a straight line, right? You can see that together these two angles make this straight line, which means those two angles together are supplementary. Whereas AXY together with YXB, these appear to make this right angle, which means together those two angles are complementary. They add up to 90 degrees. Now, once we know that information, we can use that to calculate missing values. So I have this example here, and I know that, or I am telling you that angle COA is a right angle. And when I look at the diagram, I can see that part of it, right, I can see that BOA is 79 degrees. So the question is, what is the value here, right? What is this missing piece? And let's go ahead and call this missing piece X, right? This angle here we don't know, let's call it X. And we know that together, X plus the 79 degrees must add up to 90 degrees because they're complementary. So we could solve to find the value of X by undoing, like we've always done with our algebraic solutions, to find out that X is equal to 11 degrees, right? So the value of COB is 11. Here are two more examples of this. In both cases, I've identified our angles as right angles, and so our job is going to be to find the missing angle, which in the example here on the left, that means we know that 29 plus whatever our missing X value is must add up to 90. And on our example on the right, we know that 62 plus our X value must add up to 90. So in both cases, we'll just solve and figure out what our missing value is, and then we'll know what our what our angle measurement is. So in our first example, angle YOZ must be 61 degrees because that's what we would get if we took our 90 degrees and subtracted the 29 that's already been accounted for. And on the example on the right, if we know the entire angle AOC is a right angle, and we know that 62 degrees right here is AOB, that means what's remaining is 28 degrees. And even if we don't have a visual in front of us, we can still find the missing angle if we know that two angles are complementary. So we know angle A and B are complementary, angle B is 24 degrees. What is the measure of angle A? Well, since we know that they are complementary, we know that angle A plus angle B must equal 90 degrees. But we know already that, we don't know A, but we know that B is 24 degrees, and so we would just fill in what we know and then solve for our missing value. And by doing that, we find out that the measure of angle A is 66 degrees. Now we can do the same thing with supplementary angles. So together, angle WXZ is a straight angle. That means they are supplementary, these two sections, right? WXY and YXZ must be supplementary. Together they must add up to 180. And we can see already that YXZ is 48 of those degrees, so we just need to find out what this missing section is here for angle WXY. So I know that the value of this x area, I'm just going to call that x, plus 48 is 180. So as always, we can solve for our missing variable. And when we do that, we can find out the value of x, which works out to be 132, which means our angle WXY is 132 degrees. So I have two more sets of angles here that are both identified as straight angles. And in each of them we know one portion of the angle and we're missing the other. So we're just going to go ahead and, knowing that they're supplementary, be able to solve to find the missing value. So in both cases we'd set these up to say that our x missing value plus the value we know has to add up to 180. So take a moment to go ahead and solve these just by doing some quick subtraction calculations. And when we do that, in our problem here on the left, we find that the angle that was missing, this angle here, angle WXY, is 74 degrees. And we find over on the right-hand side that the angle that's missing, angle AOB, must be 24 degrees, right? Just by doing our nice quick subtraction. And just as we saw with our complementary angles, we can also do supplementary angle calculations without a visual. So if we know that angle A and angle B are supplementary, and angle B is 83 degrees, we can quickly find the measure of angle A. And since they are supplementary, we know they add up to 180 degrees. Which means, of course, we could write that A plus B is equal to 180 degrees. But we don't know A, but we do know that B is 83 degrees, so we can fill that in and then solve for our missing value. So go ahead and take care of that, which should hopefully lead you to realize that angle A must be 97 degrees. And I'll just leave you with two quick calculations for you to do on your own and bring to class completed. So we know one of the pairs of angles is complementary, another one here in question 2 is supplementary. Please find the value of the missing angle for both. And remember, the essential question for the video was how can we use our knowledge of complementary and supplementary angles to calculate missing values. So hopefully by doing these two questions you can show that you have found the answer to that question.